Well, I'm not home alone, so I thought, why not look for something in the fridge to eat? Am I hungry? I don't know. I feel a little hungry. I didn't eat a lot yesterday. I was like, I ate very little, so I bought egg rolls on the way home because I was looking for toilet paper and egg rolls. And let me tell you something. Like, it was interesting. It's interesting being a pedestrian on the way home. I'm telling you, when you walk, like, you see more things. Like, it was really sad. I saw a kid on a skateboard and people speeding, and well, I don't think he was a kid. I think he's probably in his early 20s. I don't know. He was a younger guy. He got hit because these people were speeding, and the police and the paramedics were on the scene pretty quickly, and they did a good job. And you know, I feel like I was really sad. I was like, ugh. But don't ever cross the street where there isn't a crosswalk, because I see a lot of people do that. They think, I mean, okay, I know in other countries it's different. Like, people just like Italy and whatnot. I know people, I've heard anyway that traffic lights are more decorative and that they don't really stop and you have to just keep walking, and people walk into traffic and they're okay with that. But here in the States, like, we're a little bit more law abiding. I'm not saying everybody, but we like rules and like safety a little bit more with our traffic. I think it does help. We have fewer traffic fatalities as opposed to, like, you know, in Cairo, a lot of people die because people don't obey traffic lights, and you really should. I mean, there needs to be some rules for the road. And you know, my friend and I, we even did a live stream talking about this. I don't think it necessarily even would have to be the government enforcing it. It would just be like rules of civility where people respect human life and you stop for people crossing the street. But you need to do it where there's a crosswalk. You can't just cross. So, okay, this young man crossed the street where there was no crosswalk. And, okay, this scared me a bit because, and I saw a car coming really fast, and by the time I walked by, there was blood, and there were people, like, trying to make sure he was okay before the paramedics got there. I kept walking, but I don't recommend our first responders because, like, right now, like, I know that there are things that have happened that are not right, and I agree, but there have always been things that happen that are not right to many different groups of people, and it wasn't always like just one particular group of people that the police target or pick on, by the way. I mean, there have been many cases where you would think some people wouldn't be picked on because, I don't know, well, you know, I'm not even going to go into that, but I think if you know the situation a little bit more, you're not going to just be like, you're not going to use a broad brush to describe such a situation. And look, any kind of brutality is wrong. No group of people should use brutality. That should never happen. That's wrong. But I think when we start, but I do think it's a problem when we start acting like all first responders are brutal, saying that they all are nefarious, saying that they all do bad things, because we do want some law and order in our society. You do, like, okay, I think about this a lot. You might not like a corporation. Some people don't like them. Some people don't like small businesses. But here's the reality. Unless you're going to grow all your own food, live off the land, hunt for food, like, do it all yourself, DIY everything. I know people don't like this. People want to hate people who own a business, or they want to hate a corporation. And I'm not saying everything a corporation does is good, but like mom and pop stores, these little stores help the community. They create jobs, they create services, and people like things. So there's a difference between a peaceful protest and looting. And in our local city, small businesses in a very economically deprived local city. These were actually minority businesses that were looted, and it's interesting, like, how will some of these businesses come back? Like, how are they gonna come back when that happens? So I just feel like maybe we need to treat our small businesses and first responders with more respect. We shouldn't just say, oh, they're this. Like, it's kind of, it's wrong, because here, I'll tell you why. I kind of talked about it yesterday. You know, I'm part Syrian. I'm mixed of European and Middle Eastern. I'm not just like white. Like, some people are just, you know, I get it. There are some people that they have this so-called white privilege thing, and it exists to some degree, but I'm going to be honest with you here. There are white people that have been targeted too by the police in some communities. It's not just black people. It's not just Hispanic people. There have been, like, there are cases, like, we knew of a case where there was a young man, and I mean, I didn't know him personally, but it happened in another community I live with. And so I don't like when people say, oh, it's all this, and then, okay, if you protest peacefully, that's one thing. There's nothing wrong with peaceful protests. You have the constitutional right to do that. But here's the problem that I had. A couple of weeks ago, there were peaceful protests. There were libertarians that were protesting. Like, there's somebody named Nicholas Wildstar. He actually is an African-American man, and he had issues and concerns, like, for years with, like, how, like, he saw as the overreaching of the police from a libertarian view. But everybody said that everybody that was protesting the lockdown was white and Republican. When I said, well, that's not always true, there were other people. And then all of a sudden, like, you have an event that's very unfortunate, that should not have happened. Nobody should be suffocated to death by the police. That's horrible. But we should never say that that is indicative of all the police, because there's a lot of good cops, there's a lot of good paramedics, firemen, first responders who care about people in their communities. And I feel like you are being very just wicked to say that they all are, like, there are some people right now, okay, there was a sign, like, if you do peaceful signs, that's fine, but there was a sign that said the Klan and the police go hand in hand, and they put that sign up in our city yesterday. And I know for a fact there are cops that are African American, that are Hispanic, that are white, that are from all nationalities, that are good cops. They're not all bad people, and I think that's very disrespectful when you say that about our law enforcement officials, especially since some communities have ones that really work with the community. And if you want to make change and you want to protest, I personally don't want to go to a protest. I don't want to go to a lockdown protest, and I don't want to go to any other kind of protest. I'm not a protester. You have that right. But when you start saying one group of people is bad because they protest, but another group of people is good when they protest, I don't think that's fair. And also, too, look, with the whole COVID-19 thing, people were afraid a few weeks ago that they might spread it at the protest, but then now, like, they're not talking about that. Look, I mean, I think we have found recently that was overinflated a little bit. COVID is real. It is contagious, though, and I did talk to my friend in the medical field who said it doesn't really matter what kind of group of people you're gathering in. You still can risk getting it. So it didn't change just because people think that certain protests are more favorable than other protests. But when you live in America, look, you might not like everybody's views, but there are people on all sides of the spectrum, really. There are independent people, but some people say it's only Democrats and it's only Republicans. And I kind of think that's a very simplified view. Look, when I was younger, I was very pro-Democrat. I thought Democrats were the only right ones. Like, I kind of bought into some of that. But I started meeting people. There are people that are from minority groups that are Republican and Libertarian. And, you know, I'm a mixed person myself, and I guess I'm more independent. I don't affiliate with one party. So I think it's very just unfair when you start saying one group of people is good, one group of people is bad, all these people in this group are bad, all these people in this group are good. You have the right to peacefully protest no matter what your view is, as long as you're not hurting somebody. Look, if you're not hurting someone and you're being peaceful, that's fine. But looting is not protesting, and we should be very clear that when people loot, they're not protesters. And yes, I've heard there were some people that tried to make the protests look like they were the looters, and that's not the case. But we do know locally in our local city that there were some minority people that actually looted minority businesses, and that was caught on camera. And I don't want to get political, but don't follow every trend, okay? Just because people say, oh, this is trendy and this is cool, like, think for a minute beyond politics, okay? You have to think for yourself. You can't just be like, oh my gosh, like, everybody's doing this, I should too. Honestly, personally, I want to go to a protest at any time. I don't think it's safe at any time for my personal well-being. I'm not into protesting, but as long as we're still in America, you do have the right to peacefully assemble. Now, when they say there's a curfew in your city and they start saying that it's no longer peacefully assembling, you would be best to go home if they have instituted a curfew in your city. I would, and I think you should, like, I know people right now are saying, well, they hate the police, but I don't think that's the right view, because there are a lot of good cops, and I don't think you should start hating on a group of people because some are bad. You know, do you want to live in a completely lawless society? You need to ask yourself that. If you're okay, I mean, it gets back to big businesses, small businesses. Some people think that nobody should own property. That's the problem. And I'm not saying that it's all Democrats. I'm not saying that it's all Democratic people, but historically, in the Democratic Party, even back in the time of FDR, I used to be the biggest fan of FDR, okay? When I was a Democrat, but then I started thinking about some of the things he did. FDR did something that was kind of racist. What did he do? Oh yeah, he interned the Japanese Americans. So I always liked FDR. I thought he was a really great president because of the New Deal, and that was kind of my view. But there were people who didn't agree with him back in the 1930s who said the country's economy may have improved if, you know, it was via the free market instead of the government creating jobs. There is that argument, and I kind of have changed my view over the years of being more pro-free market, more pro-small business. And there's a lot of people that are not just white, that are libertarian, that are more of a pro-free market view. So I think it's really unfair when they say that minority people should always vote Democrat, especially when there's a lot of people that aren't Democrats for a reason, because yes, the modern Democrats are not going to be prejudiced, but historically the Republican Party was the one that ended slavery. They were the ones that pushed Abraham Lincoln. They pushed Abraham Lincoln, okay? He wasn't even pro freeing the slaves until towards the end of his own presidency, okay? Before, a couple years before his assassination. The Republicans were the abolitionists in this country. They were the ones that wanted to end slavery. That was the Republican Party platform. That's why the Republican Party came into being. It might not be the modern Republican Party as some people, but I think it's unfair when we say that everybody who is a Republican is white and racist, when in the past, in the South, actually, Democrats, like a lot of people that were KK members were Democrats. And that's real history. You should Google it. Because I used to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not saying all Democrats, but there were Klan member Democrats in the South, and that kind of changed. Like, I'll tell you when it changed. It changed with LBJ because he You know, I do support the Equal Rights Amendment. I like libertarians who are pro civil liberties, okay, for everybody. And I'm not completely wanting to get rid of all laws and whatnot. I do think we need some civility, but we have to be truthful. We can't just say, oh, the Republicans are racist and the Democrats are not. That's not true. Look, read the history a bit. Martin Luther King was a Republican. And I know, like, some people, they still have a lot of hate for the Republican Party because of people like Dick Cheney and George Bush who started 9/11. But Dick Cheney, he was never a racist. He was just a big-time statist who was into waterboarding. But people love him now, as opposed to Donald Trump. But Donald Trump used to be a Democrat, and he was friends with Bill Clinton, and he went to Bill Clinton's wedding. So every time when people get all frenzied and wrapped up into this group's good, this group's bad, they forget, oh, behind closed doors, guess what? Republicans and Democrats in 1992, and I remember this, all of a sudden, like, when I was a kid, I remember this, put aside their differences to get a pay raise. Yes. That night, they were able to get legislation through quickly because it would result in a pay raise for themselves. Do you think any government politician should be making a six-figure income? I know. I think you should make $15 an hour to be in political office. How about that? I don't think any politician, president, city manager, anybody should be making that kind of money. They should be making enough that they could live off of it, but not, you know, because think about it. After they leave political office, many of them get speaking endorsements and they can write books and they're going to make a lot of money. And a lot of people in political office, they already have some money. Not everybody. I mean, not everybody's affluent. Some people work to become more affluent. But I don't think any politician should be making a six-figure income. And everybody that's getting whipped up into a frenzy right now, they do like to keep us divided. It's called divide and conquer politics. They like to keep you angry, they like to keep you divided, and they like to keep you distracted so that you hate your neighbor. It's so easy to hate your neighbor when you don't think about the fact that Donald Trump and Bill Clinton used to be friends, and maybe he hated Hillary Clinton during the 2016 campaign. But then why did he give money to her political campaign in 2008? They didn't always hate each other. Maybe they hate each other now, but they used to be friends, and a lot of political rivalries do come up later, but they don't all think differently, you know. I'm not excusing Donald Trump. He says a lot of racist and ignorant things. I'm not saying he's some saint, because he's definitely not. He says a lot of weird things, but has anybody ever thought, well, boy, you have somebody there that's not, he's not really smart. He says a lot of provocative things, and a lot of people can use him, I don't know, to get their agenda done. So, you want to be angry, you want to fight with each other, you want to keep the country divided, you keep doing that. I'm not going to vote Democrat or Republican because they don't have any good solutions. I'm personally, my view, I'm a libertarian. I'm voting for a third-party person. Neither party is putting up anybody good right now, but nobody's going to vote third party. They're just going to keep fighting with each other over all these politicians that are really sweaty gym socks. But you want to fight, you want to feel angry, you go ahead and do that. I changed my political affiliation from Democrat to Libertarian when I started to see, oh, Libertarian people, they might disagree with each other, but they were like promoting solutions. They didn't have like this anger, like they were actually enthusiastic for civil liberties. They were pro small business. You know, I like that. I like the free market economy. I like our small businesses. I don't hate people for bringing jobs to a community. Looting is not protesting, okay? I don't care who tells you that. Looting is not protesting. I commend when a city's police department protects the small businesses, because if they loot them and they can't come back, people are going to lose their jobs, and then more people are going to be unemployed. And anybody who stole appliances or Pampers or whatever from that small market, it takes a job away from somebody. I know you think, oh, you got a free goodie that day. But there's something called the supply chain and the free market economy, and nothing is free, okay? You might have stole something, but you took somebody's job away, and you probably created a situation where there will be less of that product, or once they produce more of it, the price goes up. And people complain, oh, the price goes up. Well, guess what? When everybody buys a whole bunch of something, the price goes up. That's called the law of supply and demand, okay? That's how it works. I know people are like, oh no, but it's price gouging. But when everybody panified, and I'm not even telling people that they shouldn't have done that, but when that happened, yes, prices went up for products because people did that. There is a correlate. Every causation has a correlate. You know, just don't be silly. Don't be silly sauce, applesauce, and think that you can steal. Stealing's wrong. It's wrong to steal from other people. You can't justify it. So you want to justify your bad behavior? Nobody agrees with you. That's on the right side of history. If you want to be on the right side of history, look, you want to peacefully protest, you have every right to do that. But so do people that don't agree with you. They have every right to do that. Do I like every comment that people make? But I saw racist comments. Maybe there's a little bit more with the far right groups. Yes, they're gonna have more racist comments like coming out of their mouths. But if you're a far left group and you put up a sign saying that the police and the Klan go hand in hand, that's racist. You can't justify that. That store owner had every right to take that sign down. If you were upset about it, you need to check your mind, because that was hateful and it was untrue. Because there's a lot of police who are minority people, even white ones, who take care of their communities, and they're not bad people. Just because they chose to be cops or somebody chose to be in the military. You might not agree with their career path, but you can pick your own. You can have your own life. You shouldn't hate somebody because of what they do for a living. If somebody does something bad, then yes, you can judge that person. But to judge everybody because they are a certain occupation, it's not rational, it's not kind, and it degrades the value of your community. That's what I say. But if you have a logical mind and if you actually have compassion for people, you will think about that. Some people won't.